It's time to do this, beating Red Dead Redemption with only the lasso and a knife. In the last video I talked about the details about how the base game works. We keep encountering small issues. And they will still be present, although I will not mention those in this video. This video will focus more on the hard parts that this game offers when using only a lasso and a knife. If you haven't watched part 1, I will recommend you to do so first. I explained there thoroughly how everything works. But when we look at the second half of the game, there are lots of difficult parts coming up. And yes, for those of you who have watched part 1, you know that it is in fact impossible to beat this game entirely without using guns. And we are counting segments where we have to shoot bullets and not the bullets itself. The main reason for that is that the game enforces you to get into a turret sometimes. Anyway, in the first part we had 10 segments where we have to fire our gun to progress. Let's just see how low the counter can be to finish the entire game. Welcome to my journey of beating Red Dead Redemption with only the lasso and the knife. So we start the second half with the mission The Demon Drink, which took me a couple of tries, because there are a couple of enemies with long sidelines on you. I would recommend to slice up the left side and then make your way right at the end of the Zora Azul. Now when we meet up with Landon Ricketts again, we have to fight off with Herr Muller. There are 2 gun duels here, which, well, brings up our counter to the 11th segment. Yeah, we then make it here, to the mission Empty Promises. Now I already went into this challenge knowing that I cannot beat the entire game with only a lasso and a knife, because the game forces me to pick up the rolling block rifle. With that we have to kill off enemies that stand on that cliffside. But you really don't have to do that. If you just do nothing, the Mexican soldiers will just clear the entire cliffside. I didn't know that, but doing nothing absolutely works here. We are going to make our way into Torquemada. There's a lot of cover fortunately, but there are also lots of soldiers shooting at us. You can run up to some of them, but it's really tricky. I found out that if you target 1 or 2 enemies and then recover your health in cover, it's really doable. Make sure you stack up on medicine before this mission, since sometimes you target a small group of enemies. But that opens a line of sight from enemies onto you that you forgot were there. So medicine can really help you in situations like that. That or just wait until the entire Mexican army kills everyone. But yeah, I know, where's the fun in that? The last part is really quite hard. The only reasons for that is the amount of enemies and the short cliffside where you can walk on. Make sure you have some medicine ready, because you are going to need it. You need at least 2, maybe even 3. All enemies are hiding and the Mexican army finds it really hard to hit them here. So keep running up to them, slice 1 or 2 and quickly run up to the nearest cover. That's the strat. What is also a little hard is the mission The Mexican Wagon Train. I mean, not usually, but with only a lasso and a knife, yes it is. We have to secure a prisoner wagon. But the problem is that it's riding. They have a few enemies that start shooting us, and we have no reliable way to take them out. Or do we? Of course we do. If you ride up to the wagon driver and lasso him off the wagon cannot continue. You have taken a few shots at this point, so just ride further around this ledge to regain your lives and take some time to let Landon Ricketts kill 1 or 2 enemies. Because the convoy stopped, the enemies will stop as well. Stupid decision, because that means that they are absolutely no match for our dear knife. Let's skip a few missions and talk about the mission Must Save or Die, because this did cost me at least 70 tries of testing what works and what doesn't. We have to free Abraham Reyes from being executed. The execution has already started, which means we don't have all day. If you wait too long, Abraham will be killed and we have to start over. Now the most obvious thing is to go via the right side. There is a guard on top of the stairs here, but don't kill him. If he is being alarmed, or killed so the other soldiers are alarmed, it's game over. It will take the soldiers approximately 3 more seconds until they kill Reyes, which fills the mission. So ignore this soldier. There is a small climbable ledge here, but that won't work as well. If you climb over this, you slide down and you will always land outside of the fort, which basically means that the soldiers have enough time to kill Reyes as well. And trust me, I've tried to do this slide for, 12 times? Now I also tried sliding off and going around the fort. But you cannot climb into the fort anymore from that side. Okay. But maybe I'm thinking way too hard. What if you just go left instead of right? Well, that won't work because you immediately get spotted. Now one time I fell off the fort and landed here. That means that I can make my way forward without getting spotted. Good plan. Well, except it's not. Because we cannot get into the fort anymore. And this took me at least 15 tries more, because landing on this rock instead of falling off is very hard. And I accidentally got lucky in my first try without realizing. Now we have covered the left side and the right side. Let's try the no, you've already failed. Because you have to slide down here, and that alarms all the enemies almost immediately. Now in a moment of reflection, I realized that I had made the best progress by trying the right side. So let's try that again. It's convenient to climb on the broken wall, but what if we don't? What if we just climbed over this wall on the left side? That works in some occasions. You will slide down and instead of fall outside of the fort, we can remain within. Great! But all guards instantly get alarmed when this happens. That means you have about 3 seconds until Reyes is killed again. Can we make it in 3 seconds? The answer is no. And I did try this for like 15 times. We can never reach the executioner in time to not kill Reyes. So, yeah. Looks like this is our 12th segment where we have to shoot. Luckily, it's only 1 bullet though. Because we kill the executioner, all soldiers get alarmed and will start to shoot me instead of Reyes, which is great. What is also really hard is the mission Mexican Caesar, but I will not cover this mission in great depth. The mission is almost exactly the same as the mission Civilization at Any Price. You know, the incredibly hard mission where we ended part 1 of the run with. The only thing to note extra here is that when we escort the train, when you stand on the, let's say the roof of the engine, the rebels target you instead of the train. And that works sometimes. Your health is not the problem here, but the train engine's health is. When they target you, there's a bigger chance that you will get through this mission. Although it's still a gamble because it's not consistent how often you get shot. So you kinda have to get lucky with how many shots you actually take. And use medicine, of course. This strategy works, but I would still recommend another one. I think the best way here is to jump off the train and ride with your horse alongside the train. That way you can lasso enemies off their horses, so they can never be a threat. So, the difficulty is increasing dramatically. And we will notice that in the next mission, which we have to talk about. The Great Mexican Train Robbery. Oh man, this mission is absolutely insane for this challenge. And let me tell you why. You are undetected, and of course we want to stay that way. There are 2 enemies here that you can stealth kill without any problems. The problem here is that there are 2 enemies on the train that will notice you if you are not careful. But we are going to let them be for now, because the biggest problem of this level is on the watch. 3 Gatling guns. The first one is on the building right here. The second one is a little further on the train, and the third is on the campsite that is across the train. If they start firing, it's done. I literally have attempts where a Gatling gun opened fire for me and I would die in about 0.8 seconds. So, they are a problem. And what we have to do is find the ideal route that we can take out the 3 Gatling guns. If that's done, it's only a matter of time before you can make it through the enemies. The first one does not notice you, so I thought just climb up there and do a surprise attack on him. But when I searched for the ladder up, I realized that there is no route up there. It's unclear how this guy manages to make it up here, but clearly we cannot. Now what I found out next is funny. My plan was to lasso the guy and pull him off the roof so we can knife him. But that would most definitely blow my cover, right? Well, no, really. He falls down for like 3 meters, but he is unsure why and doesn't start wondering why he actually fell. So we are still hidden. Enemies are programmed to return to their original spot when they have not detected you yet, so he will keep walking to the wall to reach his original place. And since there is no way up there, it just looks silly, and we can't take him out without being detected. Good, one down. This is the moment where I would usually climb onto the train. I would skip the enemies to my left for now, because if I kill one, the other one notices me. So I make my way right. And if I do that, I can silently kill the enemy here if I'm fast. We have to make our way to the Gatling gun. And it's extremely important that you do this just right. We have to kill the gunner while remaining in stealth. If not, you can forget it. Because the third Gatling gun is on the other side of the train, in an encampment that is about 30 to 40 meters away. If the entire camp knows I'm here, the turret takes me out in a blink of an eye. When you have killed the second turret in stealth, it is time to expose ourselves. We will run up to the third one as fast as we can. It does take some time for you to realize that you are an enemy, which gives you just enough time to slice the turret guy. Medicine will sometimes come in handy here. So if done perfectly, the Gatling guns have been taken care of. But oh yeah, there are also like 25 soldiers that are now alarmed by our presence. So now what? Hide behind this tent. It has the perfect cover, just cancelling out all the lines of sight that the enemies can get onto you. So here you can heal back to full. I would recommend to hide here, run up to 1 or 2 enemies max, and immediately run back after slicing them to regain your health. I kept doing this part with 2 medicine remaining, but I would run out way too fast. So I decided to leave this mission, fill up my medicines to max and then return. It takes about half an hour, but okay, it is worth it. Because we can finally be proud of our accomplishment of having killed the entire camp with only a lasso and a knife. The last mission worth mentioning in Nueva Paraiso is Unappointed Time, where the rebels invade Escalera. Luisa is killed, increasing the drama of the story. But she kept giving me pointless missions anyway, so okay. But we have to gun duel another enemy because of this, bringing up our counter to 12. And there's nothing I can do about it. But unfortunately, that's not even the end. Because shortly after, we can count up our 13th segment where we have to shoot in order to progress. We have to shoot these locks. I try to slice them open, but that does not work, obviously. This part is a bit difficult, but whatever. And hey, let's bring up our counter even further. Wow, 3 segments in just a matter of minutes. We have to shoot the TNT barrel to blow up the door. But a lasso will not trigger the explosion. Yeah, the game gets very hard after this by wanting you to gun down a wave of enemies with a Gatling gun. Luckily we can just leave it, but you can imagine that using only a lasso and a knife will make this part very difficult. If you have enough patience though, which I assume you will at this point, you can get through this. We follow the convoy and lasso every enemy that is on a horse. There is a small problem. The turret guy cannot be lassoed. He even started to assert his dominance by T-posing behind the turret. What I decided to do is use a throwing knife here for just once. It's not really in the spirit of the rules, I get that. But it is a knife and it's just stupid that we are just unable to reach him. Besides, I think the way this guy is acting is a glitch regardless. And yes, I did try to reset the game 3 times and this happened consistently. So I don't know if my game glitched out, but he kept T-posing when I started to lasso the man. So I decided to use a throwing knife here, since it makes the most sense to me. Whatever, we can let Reyes kill Bill Williamson, and we can finally leave Mexico. Now for a mission where I laughed very hard. Bear one another's burdens. where we have to rescue Nastas from the wreck of the Serendipity. An agent for them accompanies us. But did you know that this guy is a superhero? Really? Let's call him Respawning Red Blood. And here you can see why.
Over there!
I did die a few times after waiting a long time for Respawning Red Blood to have killed all the enemies. But he is incapable of killing a few enemies on the right side and a few in the back. That means that they all have opened fire on you. And you cannot run fast while carrying nastas. And getting shot isn't even that bad, because obviously we have medicine. But Nastas's health drops fast. In one turn, I had already given up hope because I had to run through enemies. But I just made it. Really, Nastas was one hit away from dying, and I already drank 2 or 3 medicine. But who cares how close it was? We did it. In the mission Great Men Are Not Always Wise, we have to take care of a bank robbery of Dutch Vanderlinde. But we cannot get off this roof, because there's an invisible wall here that prevents us from falling off. I was able to jump off at one place, but that killed me. The enemies are coming out of the bank and they have to die. And the federal government guys can take out a few, but the mission will fail once enough enemies escape. That means we have to fire our sniper a few times, making this the 15th segment where we have to shoot. Man, let's just hope we can keep the counter below 20. The fight in Berklaw camp is a bit difficult, but you have to find the right trees to hide behind. You will make it, and we make it to the same place again, but in the next mission for purely scientific purposes. Nastas is being killed. Oh no! I imagine respawning Red Blood here, like what? Whatever, we have to defend Professor McDougal this time around from the enemies. But yeah, we can only kill enemies while leaving the cabin. He keeps yelling that I am insane and I need to come back at once. But it's not necessary. Just keep in mind that you cannot get too far from the shack, otherwise you will fail the mission, which did happen to me twice. In The Prodigal Son Returns to Yale, we have to escort the professor to the Manzanita post. From his hotel chamber, we will escape through the roofs. But Harold gets captured. Luckily, we can throw the lasso and only lasso the enemy before he kills McDougal himself. But you cannot continue the mission while the enemies on the rooftops around this building haven't been cleared yet. So, 16 it is. I mean, yeah, I get that the counter is going up fast, but let me just say that this run is very hard. With only a knife and a lasso, we can only do so much, and most of the times it's not our own undoing that costs us another bullet. No, it's because the way the game is designed. Some missions are programmed so that the gun battles have a prominent role in how the game is played. So it is very hard and sometimes our counter goes up, but this run, it's very hard, but also a lot of fun. I'm having a really good time. Now we are getting into the final part of the game. So of course our counter is going to go up in the next missions that we have to play back to back. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. First, we get into an unfortunate case of Fort Mercer, where we have to kill waves of enemies on this turret. And the game does not let me leave the turret. So we are going to shoot. But before I did, I tried to do this part by doing nothing. Maybe all these soldiers would kill all enemies, but it doesn't work. And trust me, I've waited a really long time. It does not work. So you have to fire the Gatling gun, which brings up our counter. The fighting scene right here is a bit difficult. I think your best chance is to let the army soldiers wipe out all enemies. But that is going to take some time. And since I did not feel like waiting the entire time, I just ran via the right side. And that works too, but you will most definitely need at least one medicine if you do this. In the camp itself, we are going to use the same strategy we have used a lot in this run. Hide in cover, run up to 2 or max 3 enemies to slice them and then run back. I should also mention this part, which is funny. An army man is going to plant a bomb right here and we have to defend him. But as you can guess, that's not really ideal with only a knife. There's also very little cover here, by the way. And not that it matters actually, because if I have to hide in cover, the enemies have opened fire on the army man, which lets you fail the mission in an instant. But we can lasso the enemies off of their high ground so we can slice them. It's not easy though, there will still be enemies that will not expose themselves up there. This one for example. In all of my runs, and yes I did many, I was not able to take this one out. The main reason for that is that the lamp and the wooden planks that are between me and him block my lasso. Very unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Everyone get back!
You may remember that Dutch van der Linde always has a plan. Well, his plan this time around is to shoot a turret onto me. Which sucks, because you can die here in no time. But if you maneuver through the tents, you should be fine. But what you cannot do is get too close and walk up to the wooden fort where he stands on. Because if you do, you just simply die. I mean, why? It's a perfectly viable strategy, but nope, not right here. The game actively expects me to shoot the lamps that are conveniently placed around Dutch's turret. And if we do that, that brings up our counter to 18. We can then follow Dutch, and when we get to the top of the cliff, John decides to do the smart thing by putting his gun away. Good job, John. And good guy Dutch van der Linde kills himself so we don't waste a bullet. What a sweet guy. Now we have finally done what the government wanted me to do. And we get to see our family again. But that does not mean that this story is over. No, in fact, I am 25 years old, living in a working and studying household. But suddenly, I have to play farmer dad right here and raise my son Jack. And you know, I'm not ready for that. And despite being a good father or not, I would quickly find out that being a farmer without a gun is really damn hard. Because I would run into multiple problems along the way. Here for example, I wanted to get a herd with my son Jack. But in the middle of an open field, we get attacked by cattle rustlers. Now I don't care if my cattle dies. Great farmer, I know, but I cannot die. Luckily my son is invincible, good boy. So we are going to drink medicine here, but this cost me quite a while. I am going to lasso every enemy off their horse and I hope that I can get into a reachable knife distance without getting shot too much. There's only one rock that provides cover. And that helps, but it is situational. It depends where the enemies have positioned to figure out if this is a good hiding spot or not. Anyway, we can do this, it's just gonna take some time and we kill about 10 guys here. Quite impressive for a farmer, right? But what I couldn't beat is a few birds. With my 1000 IQ, I tried to throw my lasso onto the corn silo. But for some reason, that did not scare off the birds. Can you believe that? So, yeah, being a farmer brought up our counter to 19. Now what I found really funny is when I decided to take my son hunting. But Jack wants to learn how to shoot. But Jack, what makes you think that I know how to shoot? There are only 19 parts in my entire life where I had to shoot a bullet. Not like I'm a professional or anything. However, I refuse to raise my son with such violence, and we can make a great example by running after an elk for about 15 minutes to hopefully slice him every now and then. And that works. John instantly becomes delusional by saying that we have to wait for the right shot. But, which shot he must have meant opportunity.
You ready to take a shot, Jack?
Of course, Bob.
Remember, it's all about timing. Wait for your moment. Don't snatch
I
it.
know. I saw how you did it.
What? When? Jack gets himself into a fight with a bear, which we have to kill with only a knife. But this is also a challenge required to do for a 100%er run, which I have done in the past. So nothing we can't handle. Now, for one last firefight. The last enemy shall be destroyed. Multiple waves of enemies are coming. The only reliable cover is if you move forward, I would say. Because, yes, we can take cover on the front porch of my house, but I cannot reach the enemies. If I move forward, I have a chance to take out a few. This mission has a few checkpoints, which you are really going to need. It's really hard to kill every enemy in the entire mission in one go. Especially after Uncle dies. This took me many attempts to do. But what I found is that the enemies are programmed to run slowly up to the house, even when you aren't even there. So right after Uncle dies, I would run up to the small hill right here. We do get a good vantage point here, from where we can run up to one enemy at a time. Some medicine and some luck is going to be needed, but we have already done this plenty of times. What is also tricky is escorting Abigail and Jack to the barn, but yeah, the same strategy as always works wonders here. We send them off on a horse, and after a very long and fun run of this game, my fate would be settled here. We open the barn door and enter Deadeye. Although we never have enough time to shoot all enemies, it does not matter since we won't shoot regardless. And this is how John Marston, unfortunately, dies. What a hero. He died to save the challenge. Years later, Jack can't let go his father's death, but he is unable to live up to his reputation, unfortunately. The mission Remember My Family is officially a stranger mission, but I consider this one to be the real final mission. That means that we have to find Edgar Ross, but instead of just slicing him, Jack challenges him to a duel. Which means that only one more shot is necessary to let the credits roll. This brings our final shot segment count up to 20. But I don't mind. If anyone deserves a bullet, it's that scumbag of Edgar Ross. And that concludes my first two-part video on this channel. This run was incredibly fun. And I think that's the correct word. Not per se difficult. I mean, yeah, there were difficult parts, but I have done runs that are impossibly difficult from start to finish, which was not this. But yeah, I'm looking at you into the Nexus. Anyway, playing a Western shooter without guns is very weird, obviously. But it does force you to think outside of the box and come up with a few weird strategies, such as pulling enemies off their horses and whatnot. Now, would I recommend this run? Yes, absolutely. You can laugh a lot to how silly it is what you are actually doing. I also think that this run is very, let's say, accessible for anyone. Only a few really hard parts, but mostly great fun. This has been yet another obscure video game run, so until next time, I'd say, take care.
Taken